6:30, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. So our first order of business is public comments. We got 15 minutes. Got one person. And we're good. Okay. Then we will move on. Before we go any further, I'll just note that Ms. Manzelli had let me know that she's got an unexpected work commitment. She expects to hopefully be done by 7 and try to join us remotely, so we'll keep an eye out for her on the WebEx. So that takes us to agenda review. I don't have any changes. There's a couple of things that I'm not sure exactly where they're going to fit in, but we'll get to them. Does anybody have any additions or questions on the agenda tonight? Fantastic. We've got 2 sets of minutes. So up to everybody. If we're good, we can take them as a set. If there's corrections, we'll do them one at a time. Good. Gene? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of June 5th and June 21st, 2022?
To abstain on the 21st.
Okay, let's do them separate then. So is there a motion? Sorry, go ahead. Sure. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Good catch. Okay, so is there a motion to approve June 5th?
A motion to approve the June 5th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes of June 5th, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. So we had a correction for the June 21st already, so is there a motion to approve those as amended?
I'll move to approve the June 21st as amended.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other conversation? Okay, then all in favor of approving the minutes of June 21st, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained?
Aye.
Okay. Give Sandy a minute. Cool. All right, agenda item number 5 is board reports. So we've got Mr. Coughlin up first.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. First on my list is we hired a new administrative assistant to the facilities and athletics department, Ms. Heidi Rober. She started last week and has fit right into the team. So we look forward to moving on and continuing that teamwork with her. Next up, the crew's been hard at work in all the buildings, inside and outside, throughout the summer. You can see it. You guys walked into Pembroke Academy tonight. The place is glowing, and that's just a reflection of our facilities crew. So they've been working hard, staying on task, and ready for the school year to start at this point in time. Outside crew's been hard at work, specifically the last month or so, prepping those athletic fields, getting these places beautified for the start of the school year and the start of athletics. Athletics started this week for Pembroke Academy and soon to be for Three Rivers here, and fields are ready. Just praying for a little bit more rain to push those along. Lastly, on the crew end, we had 5 summer kids and 2 painters, 2 staff members here at Pembroke Academy. I should have listed the names and out of fear of missing one of those 7, I'm going to just say that they were probably the best crew in my 15 years here. The 5 kids, 4 were what we would call summer custodians, moving furniture, cleaning the furniture and the infrastructure, and then 1 was a painter with the 2 staff. They stayed on task and truly got the job done. And again, 15 years here, they were probably the best I've had, and I don't just say that. So kudos to them and thank you. Hopefully we retain some of those students here for next summer. The PA library was a big one. The facilities crew was hard at work, getting rid of the old, allowing the new to come in, moving stuff here, moving stuff there. As you see, It's relatively finished. There is a punch list of items with the contractors that still need to be done. We've hidden those items well from you guys tonight, but they are on the list and they will happen. And also, a big kudos to Chrissy Smith, the librarian. She's the one organizing and getting these books back on these walls, making sure this place looks in tip-top shape. And she's just been a huge asset here the last couple of weeks, wrapping this job up. The asbestos abatements at both PA and PHS went well, actually went ahead of schedule, which doesn't happen in these days, and it didn't happen pre-COVID, quote unquote. And we finished them, a month and a half ago. So the abatements went well, and then the replacement flooring coming in behind them stayed on task and stayed on time. And we also had some HVAC work we had to do because of that with some unit ventilators. Everybody showed up when they had to, and actually, again, finished ahead of time. Our annual security camera installs are pretty much wrapped up. We do have a punch list item over at Three Rivers, but they're up and running and good to go for the most part. Really concentrated on some blind spots that the administration had some issues with over the past year and helped support them in that cause with those. PHS had some pretty decent sidewalk repair completed to better help and serve the pickup and arrival areas. The sidewalk's in pretty tough shape down there, and we were able to patch a pretty big significant area. It's a patch job. It's going to last 2-3 years, 4 years maybe. We know that. We expect it on the back end, but we're hoping other things happen by that time. If not, we'll go from there. The gas-fired boilers, which is part of ESSER 3 here at Pembroke Academy, have been ordered. It's about a 12-week lead time. I would estimate really 16 to 20, because that's something that's not going to come in on time, would be my guess. And when those arrive, we will work with Honeywell, our contractor, and get those in and work around A, the heating schedule, and B, the building being occupied. But that job will be started and completed as those come in. We will not wait till a vacation or next summer. We added some magnetic door holders at Three Rivers. Those are up and running, minus a couple. We're waiting on a transformer. Magnetic door holders are those magnets that hold the doors back, that allow us to keep the doors open, that allow us to meet code and not pin them with wood, and more so allow, if the fire alarm ever went off, that those doors would close and become a 30-minute, 60-minute, hour and a half minute rated fire door. So if something happened in that area, those doors shut to prevent the fire from spreading. Post-COVID, it also allows us to remove touch points. So less touching, less cleaning, etc. So double dip there. And we had some electronic access doors, this is probably our longest going job, that it dragged on, and it was because of supply chain issues, and it was because of working with some of the local contractors. When we can get contractors in to do some of these, unfortunately, it didn't work out with sickness, etc. On top of supply chain issues, we have those installed. Now we have to come back on the computer end to get them up and running on that end. So with that's what we've been up to this summer. Again, I can't praise my crew enough for all the hard work they've done, both inside and outside. And that's about all I got.
Awesome. Thanks. Any questions or comments for Josh?
I just want to acknowledge Josh always praises his crew, but you have a vision that a lot of people don't have, and you see the big picture and you see what needs to get done. And I just want to thank you because you lead the whole thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's definitely noticeable coming in tonight. Just to piggyback, I wanted to also thank Josh and give a little shout out towards the end of our sessions last year. We were buttoning up the grant process for the schoolhouse building. That all got submitted, and they confirmed that it was in process. I don't know what the time frame is that we're supposed to hear, yes or no. But Mr. Coughlin worked with Mr. Garvin to take some extra pictures and get Mr. Garvin access to the building for a little bit to see what was going on in there. I think they actually went and requoted some more stuff because of the increased amount that the grant might be able to get us. So that's a waiting game at this point, but I appreciate you guys getting it taken care of before the deadline.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Gene listed for SAU board / exec board. Is there? All right. I'm gonna go, I guess, a little out of order, but CIP's on here too. I don't. That's kind of both of you guys. I don't know who wants to take it, or is it?
Overview. So we went through all the town departments so far, and we're presented with essentially the want list like it goes every year. And tomorrow night, or I'm sorry, Thursday night will be the final, basically grading process. We, priority grading, what's important, 1, 2, and 3. I unfortunately did not make Josh's the CIP meeting last Thursday with Josh for the schools, but Melanie went in my stead, so I can turn it over to her.
Sure.
Or Josh, okay.
So thank you, Melanie, for showing up and supporting. Appreciate that. And thanks, Gene, for being on that committee. So I can go through the report, which I've done in the past, or I could talk about how the meeting went, which, to piggyback Melanie, it went very good. I believe we have the CIP in the format that the committee has asked for over the past year. They seem very pleased with it. We have what I would call the contributions being made in the right columns in their Excel format. And we have, the items we would be looking to ask for and the money's coming out in the right column. So with that, again, it was probably a 25-minute meeting. Some of them in my first couple years, they were 2 nights spread over through 2 weeks, and they were 2 to 4 hours apiece. So I think part of that is the communication and the transparency that we've put into this report, both itemizing and labeling it with items that we're going to need or items we know we need, and coming up with some sort of an honest figure that we're either working off of with contractors or from prior reports. Really pre-COVID at this point, our reports are really out of date at this point in time, even though for some of us, they feel like they just happened yesterday. They did. The market's changed. Whether the market settles a little bit, all those numbers we have to add on to or have honest conversations with the contractors we trust or the people we trust. So that's that. If you'd like, I can go through the report.
We've got the list. I guess if anybody has specific questions that you want to ask about it, you can do
I
that.
would just maybe talk about a couple items that I've
Sure.
added. One is we know at the Hill School in Three Rivers, the phone system is out of date. So we've added that to the report. We haven't added the dollar figure. We're going to work on getting a dollar figure for that. And I would expect to have a true dollar figure for something to happen, not next summer, but the summer after. We worked, unfortunately, that far in advance. So that was added onto the list. And a big one here at Pembroke Academy is the track. So of all the discussion that really took place at the CIP, the discussion was pretty much based around the track. It's a huge dollar figure. It's at the point of life's end. We can see its life's end happening. We've reached out to the installers. We're past the point of redoing it. So a track is kind of like tar. You can shim and overlay it so much before you have to just take it all up and redo it. We're past that point. We had that done, I believe, the year I was in Allenstown, but it might have been my last year here when I was a supervisor. So that's dating 8, 9, 10 years ago at this point. And the expected life out of that call it shim and overlay or resurface, was 5 to 7 years. So we've surpassed that at this point in time. We believe we have some more borrowed time with it. We are watching it. We are maintaining it. We will not let it get to a point of it being a safety hazard, although it could get to that point. We just don't believe we're there. We're trying to get ahead of that. And that price in today's market is roughly $450,000. So the conversation between the CIP that took place is, would we really put that in a trust fund that in this market is losing money, or would we look to bond something like that out and just do it that way? So that was the conversation. That's not my job. Is to show you A, B, and C, be involved with it, and then bring that discussion to you guys. So that's something sooner than later we really need to look at. It's been on it. And true numbers have finally been attached. It took a minute to get true numbers.
Cool. Thanks. Any other comments or questions around CIP? I had one. It's not, I guess it's not even, I think technically not us. But I believe in last year's plan from the town for rec, they put in money to do the tennis courts.
So it's happening. As with everything, they were due the first week of August.
Okay.
So we're next on that list when they get done, wherever they are in the world.
Okay.
We're next on that list. And we have started communicating to the rec department. You know, it's running late at this point in time. It's okay that it's going to happen, but there's going to have to be a little bit more communication, because at this point in time, there's going to be an occupied facility where I'll get involved a little bit more than maybe I might not have if it was mid-July.
Sure.
So it is there, and it's still on the paper.
Cool. Could I ask you a favor? I don't know, just a note somewhere on a pad to remind me when we start budget conversations about those numbers as far as life expectancy of the track. I wrote them down here,
yep.
but you know, when we take that stuff to the taxpayers, it's certainly important to let them know, you know, we did the right thing.
Yep.
We put a 5-year solution in. We got almost 10 out of it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not wasting money. We've been very good custodians of the money going into that track.
Yep.
We don't want to get to a safety hazard.
So I'll do it multiple ways. I always send Patty a couple emails throughout that process and get everything on paper. And a lot of times that stuff's getting shifted over into your drive. In the days of those meetings, we will have a quick conversation.
Thank you. Anything else for Josh before we? Okay. Then we have principals. So I'll have a 3-headed coin. So we'll start with Dr. Morris.
Thank you. I was going to start with the library, but Josh stole my thunder yet again. And I won't rehash that. He did a better job talking about that than I would have. I'll move on to hiring. We didn't have a lot of turnover, but the areas where we had vacancies were hard to fill. Fortunately, we're at a point right now where we look good. We have one outstanding vacancy for a transition lab coordinator, but other than that, we have a nurse. We have math teachers. We had a veteran world language teacher who left to go to Concord High, and I was a little nervous about that one. And like within a week, we had a great candidate who met with Patty. And so feeling very good about our new crop of staff coming in. We had our new teacher orientation day today. Amy Parkinson facilitated that, and that was in place of Chris Motika doing that. And that was for all of the new staff in the SAU. And that went very well. I'll just say in terms of the hiring, we try to balance between having a collaborative process and an efficient process, particularly in a competitive job market. And so, you know, when possible, we will include students in hiring committees. We think that's a great experience for them and for the candidate to see that we try to stay student focused. We also include department members, other administrators, representative from special ed. And in the summer, it's a little harder to do that at that level, but we always try. And in terms of efficiency, it's also very helpful that Patty gets those interviews done at her level within a few days or a week. And Yeah, I mean, it's because we've lost people, and so in a very competitive job market, that's really helpful. We have a kickoff day coming up. We did this last year where we had all of the students come in, and we didn't have a normal school day. We had a variety of different activities for the student body. It was an opportunity for class level, grade level classes to meet as one group, and their faculty advisors would talk, administrators would talk about a couple of different things that are going on, and then we had some all-school events. We're going to do that again this year. We did solicit feedback from the student body and the staff last fall, and we've implemented some of those suggestions. So for instance, freshmen as well as all of the upperclassmen will have an opportunity to walk through their schedule in an abbreviated fashion, but it will allow them to see where their classes are, who else will be in their classes, their teachers, that sort of thing. It's a little challenging from a logistical perspective, but we'll be able to do it. So really looking forward to that on Monday the 29th, coming right up. And then finally, one theme that will be recurring throughout this year at Pembroke Academy is NEASC. NEASC has lessened the emphasis of the decennial visit. That's still there, and that's coming up for us in a few years, but they've included now this, what they call a collaborative conference, which comes like year 8. We're in year 8. So that collaborative conference is going to be this year. And it's a 3-day event where they will come to us, and it's basically breaking up the decennial visit into these 2 different experiences. One is a smaller decennial visit, and one is this collaborative conference. So a lot of work coming on that. We have our NEASC liaison coming to speak to our staff at our first faculty meeting on September 1st. So got a lot coming with NEASC. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Any questions about PA? I just want to say thanks. I happened to watch the video today that had the 2 new teachers on it. I think the whole video series has been great the last couple of years. Super useful, very accessible, very well done.
Thank you. I'll tell my daughter that. She gives me notes.
Well, I like the animated parts the best because I'm still basically an elementary school student myself. But okay, then we will move to Mr. Marston.
Like everybody, we've been pretty busy. I do want to emphasize the custodial crew and Josh. I felt like we're a little understaffed at Three Rivers this summer, but it didn't make a difference. We still got a few things to wrap up, but we've been able to stay ahead of that curve, and the place looks really good, inside and out. They are outdoor fitness center. They kind of enhanced that a little more and a little more user friendly. So I think we could open tomorrow, to be honest with you, if we had to. So that's great. So again, what's that? I'm ready. I'm ready to go. The other remarkable thing this summer that Katie and I were talking about was I looked at her one day and I said, "We're ready, aren't we?" And we realized we didn't spend so much bloody time on COVID for the first time in a few summers, that we're actually able to really get down to what do we want to do for the school, and try to get some trainings in place that maybe we hadn't done as good a job as before. We spent so much time in the summers, doing all the stuff that we're just kind of winging it. So it felt good this summer to really get down and do some decent work in the building. Our hiring, we're fully staffed except for a pair or 2. We were fully staffed a while ago, which is good. It is a real thing, just so you know, that paras are very difficult to come by. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but it's tough out there. And so we are scrambling a little bit. So it's just a matter of hang on, because I don't know what the answer is. I wish I knew what the answer was, but that's been very challenging. Our Title I program has been, we boosted that up a little. We have had, for years, we've had just a reading and writing title person, and now we have a math person for a couple of years, but we've gone full-time with both of them. So we're going to be able to add another grade level. We've been doing 5th and 6th as our focus. We should be able to add 7th. Title money's allowed us to really fund that pretty remarkably now. So I've given each one of them their own space. I mean, you should see the rooms now. They're really spectacular, and I think kids are going to be able to really get something out of this. So we're pretty excited to be able to do that. Next week, we have Panther Prep Day, which is our day for our 5th graders to come in without mom and dad. And they'll go through a mock schedule, meet their teachers, see the building, see where the bathrooms are, all those that important stuff. And that usually goes off well. We've had, I can't remember how many responded, but we're up around 60 kids that are planning on coming, so which is great. The new staff orientation, I believe, was this morning for the SAU. We also do another one in our building. And so we'll have our all staff come. We have a mentor program. They'll begin to meet their mentors. We have a person that heads that up, and we look forward to that next week. We do about a half day with them just to get them, they don't know where to get a stamp. They don't know where to, those type of things. Plus all of our grading policies and all that stuff, we really start honing in on for those folks. So they hopefully, it's, a lot to take in, but at least they start getting that feel. We are changing, we're not changing, we're going back to before COVID, having our kids in the back of the building in the morning. With COVID, we've had separate entrances around the building. And while there were some real positives to that, there were some negatives. And one of his supervision is really challenging to get, 80 kids supervised without having, crippling the amount of staff on duty. So we will put them out back again. And the other part that was happening, there were some kids that could use the basketball in the morning, but nobody else. And so, get 8th graders saying, hey, we want to shoot hoops. We want to use the fitness area. And they couldn't do that. So we're going to go out back now. We're going to keep the traffic pattern the same. So it's a little bit of a challenge. I still feel like there's so many cars in the morning. We have to keep it in the big loop. The buses will come in the small loop and hopefully turn around. I think they're getting pretty good at it, and drop off there. And then we'll see how that works. But in the end, that's the best solution that we can come up with. I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, we went out back, but we didn't have kids out back. And now we're going to have kids out back, and I just don't see that as that safe. So, and it really did some damage in the spring to the road that Josh's crew had to come back in and kind of put back together again. And we couldn't drive on it for most of the spring because it was just so muddy. So I think this is overall, hopefully, the best solution. Now we are still, I don't know if Patty's going to address it at all, but we are still working on bus routes. Yeah, okay. So I'll leave that. Other than that, I think, we're ready. Our staff have been coming in the building. It was like, where is everybody? Well, yesterday and today, they're beginning to come in and get ready to go. So we're off and running.
Awesome. Questions for John?
So the lack of paras, how does that affect special ed?
Well, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So give you an idea, our numbers for special ed are up as high as I remember it, to be honest with you. And it's becoming a challenge depending on the scenario. And so I spent yesterday and some today speaking with Andrea, who is our team leader with special ed, just, moving people around, trying to figure out what the best solutions are. And it all really depends on the need, right? I mean, and that's becoming pretty challenging. So right now we think we have got what we need to do, but it doesn't take much to upset the apple cart. We're still looking for somebody, but we've had 0 applications all summer.
Yep.
So, even then, when you do get an application, and when we did have a couple and you interview, you have to make some pretty tough decisions.
Yep.
Is it better to have or not?
Right. Yep.
If you can read between the lines, read between the lines.
Yep.
And it's also, put it blunt, is we can't compete with the other workforce now.
Yep.
We are not competing.
Mhm.
And we do offer benefits, but that's not enough anymore. And what we're paying them, it's like that we kind of tell them right up front, this is what it is. And they,
Yep.
it's pretty tough to when they're paying people, 20, $25 an hour to, wash dishes.
Yeah.
It's pretty challenging.
Yep.
We're doing our best,
I'm sure you are.
seeing what we can do. And it may, sometimes it is, calling a meeting and saying, changing services or whatever. I mean, if we have to, but we try not to because we want to, what we need to do.
Yeah.
We will, we're in it.
Any others? All right, we'll move to Ms. Gary.
Hello. A lot of the same things they've already shared with you guys. The building is on its way. We all say it because we mean it. Josh and his crew, they're phenomenal. The building looks amazing. Right now, I think we're down to just like our gym areas are holding, but everything else looks great. The teachers have started coming back in the building, and we on the elementary side take a little bit longer to set up our rooms, but we'll get there. The new teachers did meet today with Amy Parkinson for the new teacher orientation. I'm meeting with them for Hill School tomorrow, kind of just taking them through what it's like to be at Hill School, asking questions, giving them some time in their rooms. So that'll be good for them. Something this year that's a little bit different for Hill School, we're doing a meet and greet for the students and for parents on the Friday before school starts. We had some conversations as a staff and some feedback from parents as well. You can imagine with everyone wanting to come in, there's that anxiety of what it's like to walk into your classroom and make sure you're in the correct spot. So we're excited to do that on Friday. We've broken it up because if COVID taught us anything, it's that we can't fit everybody in there all at once with parking. So we have to continue to break everything up. And then later on at the end of September, we'll do a true open house. That would be normal. But that way we get them all in there. They get to meet their teachers, see their classrooms. That way Monday morning, it also helps with traffic because the kids forget where they're going. This way they'll have a little bit of direction. Something else that we're kind of bringing back that happened before I jumped on board was our kindergarten all aboard. So for kindergarten, it's not a typical first day for them. They will be picked up on our school buses at 9 o'clock and their families brought to Hill School. Myself, Mr. Cass, and our guidance counselor will meet with the parents, and then the kids will go down to the kindergarten classrooms for probably about 35, 40 minutes or so to kind of get a chance to see what it's like to ride the bus, to get to meet the teacher, answer everybody's questions. Lots of good feedback. I've had a lot of people saying, I'm so glad that you guys are doing that. Or for those who had been through it already, we're so glad you brought that back. So I think overall, one of the things we're trying to do is just kind of help everybody with those transitions and getting them in. It helps all around. So we're very excited for those things coming down or at the beginning of the year. As far as staffing goes, we're similar with TRS. We've been fully staffed for a while with our certified. We feel very, very lucky with the teachers that we got on board. We are still kind of in a little bit of the same situation with paras. We're going through a little bit of hiring on that. We have had the posting up, and again, I think we've had like 2 applicants, so it's the same situation. It does impact, but we're able to figure out, the best way to meet the needs of all the students. But it is definitely a challenge and probably right now one of the hardest things for us to fill. And I think for us, that's about it.
Okay. Any questions for Wendy? Great. Thanks, guys. Good luck with the first couple of weeks. So we got number 6, consent agenda. We have 4 items.
So as always, if the board has staff specific questions, we would need to go into non-public at the end in order to discuss those. If the staff has had a chance to look at them and has no questions, their leave requests and then a tuition request. So it's whatever the board wishes. If you're ready to act, we can do that.
I'm all set. It's up to all. Good. Okay. So
3 child rearing leaves and a tuition request for a staff member.
take them as 2 groups. Is there a motion to approve the child rearing leaves? And we can do these one by one if anybody has something there.
To approve child rearing leave.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the 3 child rearing leave requests, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? or abstentions? Okay. And the tuition request?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Great. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the tuition request, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Great. Agenda item number 7 is gifts and donations, and there's a sad looking 0 on that one. So we're on to number 8, which is immediate business. I want to switch the order of these if nobody minds. I think the board goals has a possibility of going into the weeds. I also think that I'm not sure what Amy's status is, but I think she has some comments that she wants to make on that. So if we can do bus routes and handbook first and move board goals down, everybody cool? Okay, so let's talk busing.
Let's. So I did get updated bus routes from Linda yesterday. So I got those to Ashley. They didn't go in until this afternoon. But there were just a couple of changes. And right now our biggest concern is with the afternoon, we may have some students that they have to come back to get at Three Rivers. Unfortunately, the bus forms are slow coming in. Linda actually went to the town library for 2 days this week to try to be there and available to parents to sign up. So she's still working on that. It's difficult. I've already spoken to John. We initially thought maybe we should hire staff to supervise after school for the kids that get left at Three Rivers and have to come back. But at this point, we don't have a count. We don't really know who's riding. And so John and Katie have volunteered to supervise the students that may or may not need to be there after school. We won't really know that until we get going. If suddenly we realize we have 20 students every day after school, then we'll ask a staff member if they'll provide that supervision for a stipend. But as of right now, John and Katie are going to take that on. Oh, she doesn't know yet? Okay, John's going to do that.
Classic voluntold.
So it's definitely, the shortage has not improved. We're going to try really hard not to do double runs, but it's definitely tight.
Okay, so can you remind me, I think in the budget last year, we put in to lower the number of buses.
Six?
From
Six,
8
and
to
I think
6?
We have 4.
We have, so we
We have 4, right?
Right.
Now, though, I think, she has all 6 buses? Oh, I thought somebody resigned. Maybe I'm mixing you up with
That was-
Deerfield.
that was my question.
Okay. Yeah. Probably know better than I do. Oh, okay. I thought we were lower than that.
My
Okay, good.
understanding is somebody did resign, but she's got subs from other
Oh, good. Okay.
towns that are going to be able to do a
Great.
morning and the afternoon.
Okay.
I did send out a form for Three Rivers, and I gave her 85 more names today for buses. So that, that will help.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've got 6 colors, so I just want to make sure I was
Yeah.
understanding it correctly. So we are.
I think Deerfield's down to 4. I mixed you guys up. They're all double runs
Or Zach.
for everybody. Yeah.
Okay, I just was wondering if we had the drivers that we had contracted for. It sounds like we do at the moment.
The other thing that happens at Three Rivers, and that's why when I spoke with Patty to, let's wait a few minutes because we'll have athletics starting, we have 40 kids that run cross country right there,
Right.
And so between that and soccer, you might be up, pushing 75 to 100 kids that will be after school. And that really lightens that load. And so we'll feel that, in the middle of September. So before we,
Makes
ebbs and
sense.
flows.
So Linda did make a couple of changes, and yesterday's not a lot. And I think typically the board would approve them, and then when school starts, she may come back with 1 or 2 changes.
So any questions before we take action on that? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the bus routes.
I'll make a motion to accept the bus routes.
Is there a second? All right, any further discussion? Okay, then all in favor of approving the bus routes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you. Let's get back to my agenda. Yep, okay, PA handbook changes. So while he's trying to figure that out, does somebody want to make a motion that we allow Amy to participate remotely?
I make a motion that we allow Amy Parkinson to attend.
Amy is
Oh, sorry. Talking about handbooks. Amy Manzelli to join the meeting remotely.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Just a reminder that votes.
Right. Okay. I might need more than one reminder. Yeah. Okay. So Amy, I'm not sure when you were getting connected if you're up to speed, but we rearranged. We're on number 8. We rearranged to put board goals at the bottom. So we completed bus routes already, and Dr. Morris is about to talk to us about the handbook changes at Pembroke Academy.
Before you start, do you want to take this microphone for Melanie? Just the 3 of them are.
One.
Yeah, she's also muted again now. So before I talk about handbook changes, I failed to mention, and it was actually a conversation about buses, that we do have a bus issue. We do have a bus issue with athletics, and Freddie has tried to navigate that, and at this point, I think we're okay. What we're going to do is allow students to drive themselves to away games that are relatively close, meaning Bow, MV, Hopkinton, that area. Other than that, we will bus students to away games, Conval, Berlin, whatever that may look like, to those other more extended trips. The other issue is for our track team and our golf team, there isn't a lot of not track, our golf team. There isn't a lot of flexibility with that. Cross country, that was the other one. And so right now that's looking like they're going to have to drive to their meets and their matches. Those are all relatively local at this point, so no one's driving to Berlin or anything like that. But so long story short, Freddie has it all worked out right now. We may run into complications with weather, cancellations, and then trying to work that out. So, but at the same time, maybe another bus driver appears out of nowhere and that resolves itself. So.
Does that do anything for the liability of the district
For
for
them
kids
to,
driving themselves?
we've done it before.
Yeah, it's on their insurance. It's optional. It's not transportation to school. It's if you want to participate in athletics. Unfortunately, we don't have the transportation.
Okay.
It's a little bit different.
Okay, so handbook changes. We don't have a lot of major changes this year, but I will just kind of walk through what we do have. Anything that is added is highlighted in pink in that document that you should have. So, the first one is just an added line that the automated phone call for attendance is generated from the second class of the day. I had a parent conversation earlier this past school year where they said that was not notated in our handbook. So now it is. The distribution of materials on school grounds. You may remember we had a parent who was distributing materials on school grounds, and we wanted to add language that said that the distribution of materials must also be done in a manner that does not generate litter in the school building or on school grounds, for instance, placing flyers on car windshields. We also added language around the recording laws. It is unlawful in New Hampshire to use any device to observe, photograph, record, amplify, or broadcast, or in any way transmit images or sounds in a private place such as a bathroom or a locker room. And in New Hampshire, it is unlawful to audio record a conversation without a person's consent.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question about that one?
Of course.
As far as special ed and just where we have technology and students may record a lecture, how does that work? Are they able to do that?
There's a specific exemption in that law that
Okay.
was implemented 5 years ago now, I think, for special education.
Okay, I know it was
Yeah.
going
Yeah,
back
the
and
language
forth.
is
and
in
just
there.
wanted
Yep,
to make
it is.
sure that that's able to happen. Okay.
For behavioral expectations, we added a few sentences at the bottom of that philosophy section. It is impossible to anticipate every behavior or incident that may occur, and consequently, some behaviors may not be listed explicitly in the tables below. The Pembroke Academy Administration will reference the Pembroke School Board's policies for guidance when incidents arise that are not specifically listed in the Pembroke Academy Student Parent Handbook. Those policies can be found, and then it navigates how to get to those. We have had a few incidents that were not in our handbook, and so that was what we did in the past, but we didn't have any language that told people that's what we were doing. This is the tardy policy probably represents the biggest change. So last year, and for a number of years now, we have a tardy policy where a student every quarter has two, freebies, if you will, where they can come in and they can go to class. They come in late, they go to class, and they don't. It's marked as a tardy, but they don't get an administrative consequence like a detention or anything like that. Third one is a 30-minute detention, and then any tardy after that is an hour long. What was happening, however, is we would have students that would make the decision, I'm going to be 30 seconds late. That's going to represent an hour-long detention. I'm going to make it worth my while and go to Dunkin' Donuts and then come back about an hour into class. And in my experience, any policy that turns 30 seconds late into an hour late is probably worth revisiting. So what we have here, I'm just going to go through all of this because we've added some language in here, but students are considered tardy if they arrive after the passing music stops at the beginning of any class. At the beginning of school, students are considered late if the passing music stops before the student has arrived in their classroom for the first block of the day, not by the time they enter the building. If you are late to school, check into the main office before reporting to class. Students who are 1 to 9 minutes late to school will be sent to class and marked tardy in that class. Students who are 10 or more minutes late to school will be marked as tardy to school. The school year is divided into 4 quarters, and tracking tardies aligns with these 4 grading periods. We are aware that there are times when delays occur outside of a student's or their family's control, and therefore students will receive a warning the first 2 times they are tardy to school per quarter, meaning students may receive 2 tardies to school without penalty per quarter. Beginning with the 3rd tardy to school each quarter, students will receive administrative consequences, traditionally in the form of office detentions. Any student who is tardy to school due to a medical appointment is expected to obtain a note from the medical office. Excused tardies will be given with documentation or with administrator approval. Students given a detention for an unexcused tardy will not be able to participate in after-school activities, including athletics, on the day they were tardy. So we're basically saying that a student that's 1 to 9 minutes late, we're going to treat that like a tardy to class in the middle of the day. It's marked as tardy in that class. That's handled with the teacher, or if there needs to be additional follow-through, the teacher will get a dean of students involved to kind of work through that. Anything beyond 9 minutes, so 10 minutes or more, would receive an administrative consequence like that hour-long detention. So just trying to make it, trying to make the consequence a little bit more equal to, them missing, rather than it being a 30-second thing. I mean, we've actually had situations where 2 siblings are coming into the building. One comes in, custodian closes and locks the door, and the other sibling's right there. They get an hour-long detention. And I don't enjoy those phone calls. So we really wanted to revisit that and kind of look at a better way to do it. Any questions thus far? Other than that, we've just added language: failure to serve earned detentions may result in suspension time. We have had students that rack up a lot of detentions, don't serve them, and we kind of struggle with any kind of recourse with that, So we've had situations where they've been suspended, and we'll say, well, you also owe 8 hours of detention. So instead of having you serve 8 hours of detention, we're going to add a day. You come with a clean slate, and we move forward from there. And then detention obligations for seniors and detention obligations for the end of the year. It is expected that seniors will complete all earned detention obligations prior to any graduation rehearsals. This will be done by arrangement with the deans in Walker House during open campus blocks or on scheduled time during senior exams, if not sooner. Detentions may be served in full for seniors 1 week prior to graduation. Again, just trying to make sure that seniors have all of their obligations taken care of before they graduate, because once they get that diploma, it's a lot harder to get them to serve a detention. And then it is expected that underclassmen students will complete all earned detention obligations prior to final exams. This will be done by arrangement with the deans in Walker House before or after school during open campus blocks or unscheduled time, and failure to serve earned detentions may result in suspension time. And then lastly, for the out-of-school suspension, we just wanted to add that students could work with teachers to arrange. I'll just read that bullet. Students who are suspended are expected to reach out to their teachers for assignments to be picked up from the school by their parent or guardian or delivered electronically to the student. This work is to be turned in upon the student's return to school or sooner electronically if an arrangement is made with the teacher. Happy to take any questions if you have any.
Anybody? I have a question. It's not about any of the language, but I wonder when is the handbook sort of presented, discussed, importance placed on it? So I assume, first week of school, it's at least like, here's where the handbook is, but you describe how you kind of get this information to the students.
Yeah, I mean, our handbook currently is, I believe, 90 pages, and it's pretty comprehensive. What we do during that kickoff day is when students are broken up into their grade level classes, and we have a series of different, people, guidance counselors, Officer Weber. Then one of the deans will talk about changes to the handbook. So these changes will be highlighted. Not all of them. The distribution of materials is probably not something we're going to talk to students about, but the tardy policy certainly is, and serving outstanding detentions. So anything that pertains to student life that would be helpful for them, we're going to highlight those things during that kickoff event. And I think we had some success with that last year. Again, like we ran into like prom, for instance, where it's in the handbook, but it's a 100-page document. People aren't going to read that unless it impacts them. And I get that, but it's in there. So
that's why I was asking. I was just wondering if there was anything more that we could do for the, greatest hits, FAQs, whatever you want to call it, to sort of call those things out a couple times throughout the year so that you and we don't have to deal with the prom questions and the graduation rehearsal questions and stuff when it's too late, when, like you said, it's there. I as a student would definitely not have read this whole thing either.
No.
But, anything we can do creatively to bring up some of the high points is probably good. Any other questions about the handbook changes? If not,
Yeah, I guess that, how is it? Is it physically distributed to the students or is it electronic?
Electronic.
And at that point in time, is there a way that, you distribute it to the students through Alma, I suppose, or?
No, they access it and parents access it through our school website.
Mm-hmm.
There is a form. It's basically a signature page that has a variety of different things, and one of them is that the parent and student have seen the handbook and read it, and understand it.
Read it.
Right.
All right. I was just, that the parents have access to it also,
yeah.
not just to the kids. So
Yep.
that was basically where I was coming from.
Right.
And as far as out of school suspension, I know it's there. I know it's necessary, but is it, I always struggle. Is it beneficial? The students be like, yeah, I'm out of here,
Yeah.
and I mean,
We've struggled with that too, and actually, we're fortunate this year to secure semester 3 money to have a student behavior coordinator who's going to help facilitate some ISS options. That wasn't an option we've had for a number of years. And looking at the data, last year there were maybe a handful of cases that ISS would have applied. There are some incidents that it's going to be out of the building.
oh, I understand.
Whatever those, but then there are others where, parents would feel like, an out of school seems extreme for this. It's like, well, it's definitely not a detention and we don't have an ISS option. And so it's going to be an out of school. And so part of this position is to provide that as an alternative in addition to working proactively with kind of our high flyers and being a support person for them too.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Others?
To piggyback on what Jean just said. So parents and students are signing off on that. It's electronic.
Mhm.
Do the students who need it as a hard copy who may not have access? I know they have access at school.
Right. Yeah.
But are those going home at all? Because we know there are those
Mm-hmm.
cases.
We can print for anyone that asks. We haven't, in my experience in the past 2 years, haven't had anyone that has asked. Part of that may be that all students have school issued Chromebooks now too. So and we've also, because of COVID, we've done hotspots too.
Okay.
So
Yep.
and I know we have the numbers gone down, but we will have active hotspots for next year too. So, there's that. Quite frankly, I mean, the table of contents is done as a hyperlink. So it in many ways is more user friendly than if they had a ream of paper,
Absolutely.
but we would do it if anyone needed that.
Others? Okay, is there a motion to approve the changes?
To approve the changes to the PA handbook.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? I want to check, it has to be a roll call vote, so I want to check. Amy, can you hear us at the moment?
Still muted. I keep sending her a request to unmute.
Yeah, I think she did say she was driving, so I think we'll do a roll call vote. I'll try to call on her. If not, do we list her as an extension or
She's
she's not
unmuted.
present?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, sort of. I'm not sure what speaker you're coming out of, Amy. Give me 1 second.
There's a little bit of a delay, but I vote in favor of the motion.
I won't do that.
Okay, Amy, did you hear the motion?
I did hear the motion and I vote in favor.
Okay, Amy's a yes. Jean,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you.
I think when you're on there's a button to push.
I think it used to be a combination. You had to do like a *6. Yeah, that's weird. It's not.
I'm just going to say.
Is it connected to Dan's laptop? But I meant, is your laptop audio going out to that speaker? Okay. I don't know. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle. Okay. Well, we'll move on to board goals. Amy, I will try. We can't hear you great. So at conversation, I will do my best to pause and call on you specifically. And I think I'll ask everybody else, but I think if the principals want to go, they can. Up to you guys.
Unless Patty needs anybody.
Okay. You're welcome to stay if you'd like.
Shut it. Yes, I am. Okay, yeah, I'll take care of it. Thank you.
So Amy, if you can hear me, we're pausing just a moment. I let the principals go, so we're going to just give them a minute to pack up.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay. So I did send the board goals that we had talked about last time to Ashley, and she put them in the drive. Sorry, it was sort of last minute. It's kind of how I roll. I do have, I'll read these off just because we can't hear Amy well, but I do have an email from her with a couple of suggestions. Well, I've got this, but yeah, so I mean, I'll read those out loud, I guess, for the meeting. So the one, and these were typed up from the notes that I took in our June meeting. So if anybody sees anything that you disagree with how I wrote it up, just let me know. So number one was to prepare a responsible student first budget that provides more than an adequate, should have said education. It says budget, so it's a note. Mark this. Number two is to negotiate a contract for the teachers that aims to attract and retain talented teachers and continues to move them toward at least state average pay. Number three was to oversee, facilitate, and advance the process of renovating and expanding Pembroke Hill School. Number four was to implement a process in collaboration with the SAU Executive Board for superintendent evaluation. And number five was to create a district communication plan. So I'll read Amy's comments quickly, and then I'll ask her if she wants to expand. Oh, you've got that. Thank you. So the two comments, one, she said, I'd really like to see the strategic plan specifically called out. This may be related to the communications plan, but I think it's different enough concept and work product that deserves to be called out on its own. And I think enough of us have mentioned it enough times that we really need to hold ourselves accountable and memorialize this in goal writing. So I think, and I'll ask Amy specifically in a moment, that she's asking for a number 6 to be added for the strategic planning. And the second comment was, she said, in terms of teacher attraction and retention, yes, but I think using the term teacher is too narrow. I'd like to see something like staff, professional, or some term that is as broad as possible. I know I saw the custodian posting on the LED sign forever. We need amazing paraprofessionals, etc. I think we want to attract and retain all types of wonderful people. My response to that second one, just as I was writing this up, and I'm certainly not married to the term, but the reason that I said teachers in there is because this is the teacher's year. So paraprofessionals would be a separate thing. Now, there are some other contracts like custodial and whatnot that don't fall in either of those, I think. So we certainly could broaden that, and I'm open to suggestions on language. But that's why I mean, that's the contract that we're going to negotiate this year. That's the only reason that I put teachers. Amy, can you hear me? And if so, did I capture that? Okay. Sure.
Necessarily address Amy's point, but it's really certified staff because they're
Okay. Good call. Yes. Different cycle.
Year ago.
You can try.
Dateline issue.
I know it is.
Serious.
Bad. You know.
He was,
Okay, can you just stay on the phone? Okay, so if we can, let's table the discussion about the strategic plan for a moment because it's a separate item. Are there any other comments or edits on the 5 that are currently listed? Are we all comfortable with those?
I'm wondering, I completely agree, and I was reading it the same way you meant it, of negotiating a contract for certified staff. But can we add something there? Because there's nothing we can do. There's nothing, right, there's nothing we can do. Okay. And then I'm looking at number 5 of create a district communication plan, that maybe the strategic plan becomes number 5 and the district-wide and the district communication plan becomes part of that strategic
Okay.
within the strategic plan. And thank you. I'm guessing that it was you who provided the strategic. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly what you were talking about.
Okay. Any other comments on the ones that exist currently? I'll make the 2 edits. I'll change the word budget to education like it should have been already, and change teachers to certified staff, and then we can discuss the 5 and 6 thing. Is the rest of it all set?
Culture, climate.
Okay. You want to?
I think, we've been talking about it for a long time now, and I think it's something that really needs to, if we do something like this and it's truly anonymous, we can hear that people are just, very happy in their jobs here. And we don't just want to hear that. We want to hear people that aren't. And because that's why, it's great. Everybody's happy and everything's wonderful. You don't learn anything that way.
Right.
So it's the people that may be disgruntled that we need to hear from, and it's got to be something that's truly anonymous, so they feel comfortable voicing their opinion. So we know, administration knows, and we can go from there and build on things to make it better. One of the things we struggle with here is, our teachers are not paid and our paras are not paid extremely well, or well in comparison to other districts. But if the school system is embracing to them, the pay, it's not always about pay. You see it all over the place. People take the hometown discount because they're happy where they are. And we want to, make it that way for everybody.
So I have a question about that, and I think it's for Patty. I don't know. I think this was done some number of years ago, and I don't know what this process entails, and I don't know if this is appropriate to have as a board goal, or if this is just a direction that we as the board should be giving to the administration to figure out and do. I don't know who administers this. I don't know what the process looks like.
Well, I was excited last year, and I think I shared it with Jean that Chris Motika had done culture and climate work in Deerfield, and we unfortunately lost Chris Motika. So he had already done a lot of research and had some really good questions for the staff. I think that we will have access to his drive through Josh, so that we could kind of capture some of the asked, and it was anonymous. So it might be a little rudimentary, and it might just be a survey to start collecting data. It might not go further than that until we get someone else on board, but it's going to get information, which is, I think, what you're interested in.
I'm certainly comfortable having it as a goal. I just want to make sure that's the right thing to do.
Either, and I'm thinking to myself here too, also, this whole culture climate survey, if we put just a very anonymous rudimentary survey out there first and collect data that way, then we can decide maybe further, if we need to go further and really dig down in and see if there are major problems that need to be addressed. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think, that would be a good, just like you said, just a basic survey would be
With
a
comments.
start.
Yep.
Yes.
Does that work for everybody?
So I just jotted down, survey entire school community to gauge culture climate data. Is that sufficient or?
Yeah, and question, did Chris do it with just the staff or did it go out to the
No.
community?
It was middle school work and it was students, staff, and families.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
That's definitely
depends.
sounds like a good start.
Here, it's going to be a little more difficult. Like we may just decide to do it at PA for students, or in
Yeah.
Three Rivers maybe, but not
Yeah.
Hill. Yeah.
And then, Hill School, maybe, staff and parents. or
Parents,
something.
Is everybody?
Would that be a goal, or is that, like you're saying, just
Is it a
something?
direct?
That's what I'm not sure
Yeah.
about.
I'm fine with it either way. If it's a directive,
I mean, I think it's an okay goal because you're interested in gathering employee satisfaction in the district to see if you need, as a board, want to make any improvements.
Okay.
So I think it's okay.
Do we want to put a date on this or do we, I mean, I take these as our goals for this school year. So I would say it's completed and the data is in hand by the end of the school year. Is that acceptable?
yeah, that's acceptable. And I'm in my train of thought, thinking about this, doing it in the first half of the year, I don't think is very realistic because, the first month or so is everybody getting back into the groove. Then the next month you're coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas and, it's like, it gets crazy again. So I think the second half of the year when everybody's settled in, big holidays are out of the way, would be probably the appropriate time.
But not February because seasonal depression. When the sun comes back out in March, maybe.
March 21st.
There you go.
That's,
There you go.
That's it right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, that's reasonable.
Okay. So I drafted a line for that. I've got other edits to make. So if you guys are okay with it, whatever we decide with the other stuff, I'll take one more crack at writing these up correctly. And then next time we can just do an approval if that it should be a short conversation.
Do we want to try to make them SMART goals?
Oh yeah. I was going to give them to you and ask you to do that, I think.
Yeah, I thought of it yesterday, but I was like, I'm not doing that tonight if he's, so I didn't ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. It's certainly not my area of expertise, but I can do that and I can do my piece of this in the next couple of days and ship them to you if you want to do that, and then we can improve them next time around. Right? On board?
That's fine.
Okay. So I did read Amy's statement about the strategic planning, and Melanie put a bunch of stuff in the drive. So I'd kind of like to hear from everybody on this, but I'll let you know where I'm at, and I think I'm going to be in the minority this time, but that's okay. I like the overall idea of being more organized and having more direction. My hesitations are even a more abridged version seems like a significant amount of work. I would hesitate to spend very much money on it. And I think my reasoning for that is mostly that I have a hard time picturing the school board in particular as having what I would call long-term goals. 5 years doesn't even seem like long-term to me, but in 5 years, it's possible that none of us are sitting at this table anymore. And new members can come in and have different ideas and different goals. We had board goals a couple of years ago, and then a worldwide pandemic came in and they all went out the window and everybody said the word pivot for 2 years and drove us all insane. So that's my hesitation is I would hate to put in the amount of work that would be needed to do this process justice, knowing that, I mean, it could be undone at any moment for a variety of reasons. So eventually we need to vote on these goals, and currently I would vote to not have that as one, but I'm only one of 5, so I want to hear everybody else's opinion.
Pointing at me.
You were looking.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, but the whole, at least in my experience, the whole point of doing a strategic plan is you do the work and you get a facilitator once and you update those goals on a quarterly basis. You don't ever really lose your work. So when you get new members, it's constantly being looked at, usually quarterly. And we do kind of have some long-term goals like Hill School. That's not going to happen overnight. That's not going to happen this budget year. So the school board does have some long-term goals. I'm okay either way. I just think it's a really good process to build a very strong group of people to get organized and to have transparency and to say, this is where we're going. This is what we're working on. Communication can be put in that. Staff satisfaction. Our problems with the paras, Hill School, like usually it's only 4 or 5 like major pillars, which is kind of like what we're doing with our goals right now.
Mm-hmm.
It just really kind of defines, okay, Patty's in charge of the staff satisfaction and so are the guidance counselors. And this is how we're going to get you a report every 4 months of what's going on with our staff. That's the only reason why I like it.
Fair enough.
I think that strategic plan is lofty, even if it's the smaller. Looking at these goals, the first 4 goals we have to do. They're non-negotiable. So I think that in doing a strategic plan, we would be putting communication in there. We would be putting climate and culture in there, all of those things. And as much as I feel like a formal strategic plan would be great, out of the 5 of us, some of us may not even be here the full year. I figure March, just that saying, reiterating what Andy's saying. I almost feel like we need to think through this year how we're going to look at a strategic plan and not do that right away when we're in a year that we can be making a lot of progress with these other goals, including that communication plan and climate and culture. So I would like a pause in it, slowly getting there.
Yep.
Go ahead, Amy.
I think that the plan is incredibly worthwhile. You know, we recently have had a lot of comments going back to the Hill School example that Melanie mentioned. Like, oh, are we still doing that? Are we even doing that? Did we make that decision? You know, and if we had a strategic plan way back when the decision to close Village was made, that could have been an institutional guiding document that just would have helped be that sort of stable force throughout these years. And we're really lacking that. Getting all of the people that the school to be well supported, better supported than they are. You know, we do have things that are part of a long-term strategic vision. And it is okay for us to try to do hard things if they are worthwhile. I think we can do this. I think we should do this. I think at this point we probably spent about half the time that it takes to put together our first try at a strategic plan to talking about whether to do a strategic plan, and I really hope we go for this.
Thanks. Gene? Love having Gene go last.
I just have mixed feelings about it. You know, on one hand, I hear what Andy and Stacy are saying, and then I hear what Melanie are saying, and it's like, you know, I don't want to. I think it's a great idea, but this, you know, spending. Okay, let's talk about this first. Spending money on a facilitator. Where is that money going to come from? That's the question. And you know, if we're putting that into the budget with a new certified contract coming up, and we're pushing for renovation and expansion of Hill, you know, that's something that, you know, we have to be mindful of, spending more money outside of what we've already agreed to spend money on right now, you know, with the budget. And as far as, you know, people not knowing that the whole renovation thing's going on, well, at March meeting, they voted in $250,000 to facilitate that process moving forward. So, you know, the whole pleading ignorance, I didn't know, or what's going on with it. It's great to ask what's going on with it, but it's out there. People should know. I agree with Amy in the fact that probably we should have had this when we closed Village School. Absolutely, 100%. And then I think the questions wouldn't be getting asked as much right now. So I'm on the fence with it.
I'm
I-
totally on the fence with Gene too. Sorry. I'm on the fence with it too, because I can see both sides and it is a teacher contract year. But I'm also like trying to think future wise. We have our work cut out to do to show transparency if we think that we're going to get Hill School renovated. And one of the best things that we could do is get ourselves organized and be transparent. That's all I just keep thinking about. We need to do that. There's no space over there. There are special ed kids working with a math teacher in a closet. Like that needs to happen over there. And we need to be as strong of a board and a community to make that happen.
Yeah, sure.
I was just going to ask if there may be a compromise here, that maybe because you've been through the process, is there a way, and you were going to work on the goals to make them SMART goals. So is there a way to do more backwards planning and say, okay, our biggest project is to have that addition and renovation onto the Hill School, and then back plan over what does that mean for this year? And then it gets to your point of looking at things almost like objectives and benchmarks, so that it looks more like a strategic plan, but you don't have to necessarily go through the process we know is going to be cumbersome. You know, even if you took one thing at a meeting and just spent
Well, that's
a
kind of
little
like
bit of
what I
time.
was thinking is I do think we eventually need to do a strategic plan in the next few years or something, but I do think our goals need to be bumped up and the history needs to be there and it needs to be somewhat public. This is whose responsibility. This is where we are. There's 2 months left where anybody in the community could pull those up and see where we are and what we've been doing.
And I like the fluidity that you suggested.
Mhm.
And, you know, we don't really know yet. That was one of the things that I had made a note about. We need to get the architect in. We need, and, you know, so right now we don't necessarily know what it looks like. But we may come to the next meeting and say, okay, they're saying we need to meet monthly. So, okay, every month we're going to do X. And then as it evolves, we'll have more information on what needs to happen throughout that project. But there's going to be a whole lot of meetings for that. And then there's going to be a whole lot of meetings for the negotiators for the teacher contract too.
Yeah, I was going to suggest something similar, and I wonder if there's a way. What I was going to say is I wonder if there's a way that we can just do it ourselves, but I'm not sure any of us have that level of familiarity with it. But I wonder if there's a happy medium in there somewhere where we could find somebody that knows their stuff that isn't going to make us to commit to any particular schedule or anything, but that we could sort of do a check-in with, like an initial session on one of our second month, you know, the work session meetings, have them come in, and give us a presentation about here's how this process should work and what end state looks like so that we know what we're working toward. And then we take, half the year during meetings, and maybe schedule an additional one if we need to work on it, and then have them come back for sort of a check-in, right? And then when we think we've got it right, sort of have them back one more time for a, did we do this right? Sort of thing. Instead of,
Do
I
it
just,
like-
yeah, and I mean, I think the money is part of it for sure. I don't think it was huge money. I think even the high money that Barrett threw out was like 5K or something, which is not nothing, but the board has a budget. But if we could get away with it for $1,000 for 3 sort of consult sessions to keep us on the right path, but we could do the work ourselves, I think I would definitely be more interested. I don't think the idea of it is bad. I worry about, and hopefully this will get better too, because, sure.
I don't think we need to engage the school board association way of doing it. We don't necessarily have to do, the biggest, baddest strategic plan right out the gate. I think the process is the biggest important is for us to begin this process. Another way of looking at this, I'm sorry I don't have to take your hand yet, I'm in the car. So we are overseeing where the government, like the governance organization, create, $25 million budget. We don't have a strategic plan to guide that. So I think it's really important that we start a process to do that.
So we got another thing just popped in my head, and not to burden anybody, but if this is something that we think we can undertake basically ourselves with the possibility of some facilitation along the way, I'm wondering if we should create a 2-person committee whose job it is to sort of run with this between meetings, make sure that it's, bring it back to me to make sure it's kept on the agenda at appropriate times when there's stuff to report. Is it worth tapping a couple of people to sort of steer the train on this? Or is it generally going to be all 5 of us?
Mostly,
know.
I think if you set aside a little bit of time, on our work meetings, Stacy's probably pretty familiar, and so am I, of running the template. And it's just a matter of somebody having a laptop and typing in those notes when you go to talk about, here's our 5 things. Where are we at that? It's really not that hard.
Okay, so do we want to, or is it acceptable to move forward right now and say, let's reserve?
It's
Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something?
No, I
Well,
just
no,
like-
she
I-
just
Oh, I got you.
voluntold me.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say, I do think that at this point, with the number of goals that we have, that we really should have those goals and no more than 3 objectives for each one.
Yep.
And then at meetings, we can just discuss anything that we've worked on for those, and think about it as quarterly report of,
Right.
what we've done. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right. Okay. So,
Yeah.
right. Or I mean, I guess we can play it by ear, right? It's new, so we can always change course. Do we want to list it under board reports, or do we want to say we're going to reserve 20 minutes at our work session meetings specifically to discuss progress on goals? I feel like the work session meetings were extremely important the last couple of years. I think they still will be. I don't think we're going to necessarily have to have those be 2.5, 3-hour meetings where we're hitting our limit every time, because like John said, I mean, so much of that time was spent on, hey, are the new air handlers in? Do we have enough masks? Do we have enough disinfectant? And knock on wood, I think we're past that stuff. So I'd like to think that if we have that as a standing item on our second meeting of the month, that we can always have time for that and still do the other things that we need to do. But
if we do it as a board update, it becomes it becomes an agenda item, but it also becomes public information for the transparent. I'm saying that in a positive
Okay, yeah.
transparency of that may be. And if we're doing it that way, I don't know whether Sandy having that and just putting in our notes from that is part of, but I don't know. Right. Yeah, I'm just, you're typing what we're saying anyway. That's what it would be, is that. I know. I've learned, I've heard comments, I've taken them to heart.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. So do we want to put it on board reports for going forward? And if it doesn't work, we can do something different.
During like a work session?
No,
Or
we
during
don't
regular
do
meetings?
board reports on the second
Well,
meeting.
yeah,
So,
I know.
yeah. No, so we'll do it with the other ones. We'll keep it after the principals so that they don't have to sit here if they don't have to stay.
And some of them may be agenda items of themselves.
Right.
Mhm.
So it may be, hey, we're going to discuss this when we get to,
Sure.
number 6 type of thing. But if not, and if it's just a simple, nothing has been worked on this in the last 2 weeks, which could happen, or this simple thing.
Okay. And I think if we're all in agreement that we don't need to have an official facilitator, then this can be sort of like you said, a fluid process. We learn as we go. And I would like to do maybe the second September meeting if we don't have anything else that crops up that needs our full attention. If either one of you is comfortable and wants to bring a laptop and do a 20-minute, hey, this is, you sort of talk about the ones that you put in the drive, like so that I don't have a great picture in my head of what the end goal is here. To me, it sounds like goals with some bullet points underneath, to be more specific, which is sort of what the SMART goals are anyway. So, so if somebody wants to just talk at the second September meeting a little bit about sort of a vision, that'll guide the ship a little bit, I think that would be good. But otherwise, we can take care of it as we go.
I think doing it as a report also, especially when it comes to the negotiations and the renovation, it's out there all the time.
Mhm.
More so than, if we just talk about it even quarterly, like was suggested, because it's got to be out there all the time. So people have the facts on both topics, especially, those are probably going to be the two most impactful for the whole town. So.
Yeah, it also keeps it on the top of my mind because
Right.
there's not much time that goes by from this meeting until Ashley will get me going on the agenda for the next meeting. So, that I'll read through that and it'll prompt me. And then if I need to reach out to one of you or if I have an action item or something like that, it will definitely keep it at the forefront so it doesn't drop, which is good.
Well, and even communications, if we're every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Talking about what has happened for communication, it's
Right.
gonna make us say, oh, well, we need to think about this.
Yeah.
It's
And
really hard to wrap your head around if you've never done it. It's really hard to wrap your head around the finished product without ever going through it.
Yeah.
So,
we'll get there.
and I think between Stacy's experience, and I know Patty's probably done, and with contacts and stuff, I don't really even think you need a facilitator. You just really need a format. And if somebody wants to help me, I don't mind creating the template. So then it's easier to just I have plenty of templates.
Okay.
It
Sounds
seems like
good.
we're talking about of a strategic plan versus a work plan.
It's more like a work plan.
And
Yeah.
what we're talking about seems more of a
Mhm.
work plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it might
I
help
trust
your
you.
brain because I know you like Excel if you can see it.
She's figured me out.
Yeah.
Okay. That all sounds good.
Mhm.
And I think strategic, you're really, and it may come from all of this, but I think you're looking for a strategic plan, you're looking at information from all of the stakeholders involved in the district, not just this immediate core board.
And that's something, you know, we're getting a little in the weeds, but going hand in hand with the culture climate survey, you know, at some point it would be nice to pull in a group of students or a group of staff or whoever and just hear them out. And if they have things that they want to bring to our attention and haven't had the time to do it, I think the overall goal here, not to speak for everybody, but is just like Gene said, to make this a place that people want to go to school, a place that people want to work, a place that people want to volunteer their time for sports and things like that. I think that's the long-term goal, is to just make Pembroke Academy and the whole district desirable and comfortable and welcoming. So I like to think we're on the right track.
Well, I'll do it.
Okay. Okay, so back to the goals document then, we had sort of said if we were going to do a strategic plan that maybe communication plan falls under that. We added the culture climate survey. I thought somebody mentioned that would maybe fall under the strategic plan. How do you guys want me to lay this out before I send it to Stacy to get smart? Okay.
Those become, yeah.
Okay, so then I just want to be real clear so I don't screw something up. Are we good with 1 through 5 on this sheet plus the number 6, which is culture climate survey? And then we're going to feed that into the work plan process.
Yes, but I think it's bigger than just the like I see the survey as an objective.
Right.
I see the goal. So I think we need a goal.
Culture climate. And
Oh.
then
Yeah, and I
Smart-
almost wonder if those should be SMART goals and then we do objectives.
I mean, it certainly can't hurt. So I'll send them to you. And if we look at it and
love vacation.
yeah, I mean, you know, but for real, like if we come back and we look at the template and the SMART goals and say these things don't mesh, then we change our minds.
Okay.
And that will give you something for the agenda for the first working group thing. I can get it to you and you can think of 3 objectives for each one of these goals. Because that's what we're going to discuss. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's kind of how we did it.
Yeah, and as soon as I get it from you, I'll send it out to everybody, so that people can come prepared. I mean, you can email me suggestions for what did you just call them?
Objectives.
Objectives. Thank you. Before that, just don't email to the group. Be conscious of the meeting rules.
So as I say, we can't do a joint document.
Right.
Work on it, right?
Right. No, yeah. Right. It's got to be less than 3.
Okay.
But I can send out what Melanie gives so that you have it. You can send me directly things that you want plugged in there, and then I can just collate them so that when we come back together, I have a list to read off of so we don't have to sort of go back and forth.
Yep. Okay.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments on the general? I guess I'll check in with Amy specifically if you can still hear us. Do you have anything else on the goals or strategic planning or work planning or anything before we move on? Oh, yes. Okay. So anybody else, any questions, comments?
How do you email it to me, please?
All right. Anything else on 8A? Going once, going twice. Okay. Then we will move on to agenda item number 9, which is another public comment. Still got Carrie, is our only attendant. Oh, you know what? I was going to say a thing. Go right ahead. Oh, this is.
Talk a little louder. There we go. I just want to say I kind of wanted to piggyback on what Jean was saying about doing the surveys and stuff, because I know we've lost some teachers over the last year or so, but the world language teacher hit us really hard at my house, because both of my girls had that teacher and they were really sad to let her go. Understand completely why she left, but really, really wish we could work on keeping these teachers, because we're losing some good ones. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if we have anybody watching at home, but I was going to say this out loud after the principal report, so I'll say it out loud now because it seems like a good time for announcements. If you haven't logged in and updated your students' information in Alma, go do that. All right, so informational items.
I don't know if Ashley put it in the drive, but we did receive an intent to bargain, just to make it formal. That needs to get filed. So the PELRB has received that. I did reach out to Scott Thibodeau, because Molly had been the lead in the negotiation team. So I just asked him who we should coordinate with to set up our first meeting. So nothing yet, just letting you know that it needs to be done. And as soon as I have a contact person, we'll set something up.
Okay.
I think that the negotiating team is Amy and Melanie this year. Hold on.
Yeah, I think Melanie and Amy.
So I think Jean stepped out of it.
Yeah. Jean's still on budget with me.
It is. I was fine with it, but yeah, Amy and Melanie.
Great. I'll mention too, I have not heard yet about when MBC sessions are going to start. It might be on the town calendar or something. I haven't gone out to look, but I also haven't gotten an email about it. I did want to ask the board a question if I could. I think I already know the answer, but we talked about it in June. I just want to be official before I reach out to them. Nobody here is planning on trying to have Bond for Hill School on this coming March's warrant, correct? I don't think it's possible, but I just want to make sure, because I did tell them that I would, once I had updates on the situation, I would relay it to them, but I didn't want to do that without letting you all know.
At CIP, Kevin's on CIP, Kevin Foss, and there's questions asked, and we said, per Patty, that no.
Okay.
We want to do
So
it
there-
right. No.
Yeah.
No, basically, we want to make sure everything is right. All our ducks are in a row. And we're going to take our time with this to make sure that everything's
Good. Okay. I'll send an email to Mark. I haven't heard for sure that that Mark is still going to be around, but I haven't heard he's not. So I'll send an email to Mark and Jerry as the chair and vice chair of the MVC last year, and let them know that that's plan. I think since we accepted the requests earlier, I don't think we have need for non-public. Does anybody have questions about any of them? Okay. All right, then we're on number 12, appointments, resignations, and retirements.
It's already pretty public because it happened in the summer, so I can accept resignations and offer contracts. So unfortunately, Molly McCrum is leaving us, and she's going to be working in her, her. It is a good thing to bring up that her home does offer along with that. So I think that our goal of looking at our surrounding towns for collective bargaining is an idea. And this is coming in and out. Sorry. Sometimes people do leave to teach in the district that they live in. And I know that it was really, really difficult decision for her, and we were all pretty upset about that. I think it's okay now. Thank you. But in the meantime, we did find someone to, I won't say replace her, but we found another world language teacher, and she's fantastic, and we're really excited about her. So, and interestingly, a side note, she interviewed, and then the principal in Deerfield called me and said, I just had an interview with someone, and they said they were meeting with you tomorrow for Pembroke. So she had to decide between Deerfield and PA, and Dan hooked her up with a foreign language teacher here, and she liked she chose high school and being part of a team over just being the only foreign language teacher at a K-8 school. So they are hard to come by, and we were very lucky. She's great. And then you may, if you were watching the drive, you probably saw a resume for a school nurse and saw that resume disappear and saw a new resume put back in to the drive. So again, we are so lucky to have found a school nurse. Districts are really struggling, and I'm really excited about this person who is a community member, has a child coming into 9th grade at Pembroke Academy. And it's really a quality, life quality decision for her, which is really good for us. She has lots of years of experience in a hospital setting, and she just wants to be with kids and have a different schedule. So very lucky. We processed her at lightning speed. She came in yesterday, went and got her fingerprints done yesterday afternoon, and met with HR this afternoon to get all her paperwork. So we're hoping she'll be able to start with school. So I'm very excited the way things played out.
Have they sped up the process as far as the fingerprinting?
No.
So it's reasonable to think that she won't be here on the first day.
Oh no, what she did, she just showed up. And we appealed to them to say we have, COVID going on. We have a school full of children with no medical attention if we don't let this go through. So they slid her in. Appointments are being made at the end of August right now, and they let her on the spot get her prints done, which is great. It was very kind of them. And right now they're a week or two out from results. So we are right on the edge, hopefully, getting her done. If she's not ready, it's a good time to review records and, familiarize herself with our medically needy students and learn how to log into the system. So we'll be okay. And we have a nurse's assistant here. So if we have to go a couple of days, we'll be okay. But hopefully it will come back.
If she's present reviewing records and something serious does occur,
Yes, right. So I think all in all, our new hires are great, and we're very fortunate. I don't know if there was a superintendent survey that went out for all the districts to kind of fill in where the vacancies were, and just seeing that spreadsheet. I would be surprised at the culture and climate results, because our district is very well staffed and it's a desirable place to be, which feels really good to me. So
Manchester,
we're in good shape. So I would like to nominate 2 staff members and regretfully accept the resignation of Molly.
So moved.
Omega? I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion, questions?
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay.
Did anyone else?
We got a second. So roll call vote. Amy, you're up.
Amy, you're yes.
Okay, then yeah.
Jean,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Great. Thank you.
This barrage of resumes and whatnot brought up a question in my mind. I just want to throw it out there for now. I can draft something, or we can ask Dean to draft something. In all the years that I've been on the board, we always vote at the end of our sessions or somewhere around there to give Patty hiring ability over the summer. The question occurred to me, what would happen if we forgot? That would be bad, and we could definitely lose out on people. So I was thinking, I don't see a reason not to draft a policy that says in any given year, from the date of the school board's last meeting in June to the date of their first meeting in August, that the superintendent has that ability until such time that a future board rescinds it. But I want to check with you guys to make sure you were on board before I draft something. If we forgot that one year, it could really hamper things.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I'm fine with that. I think that's a good idea, because it's possible we could take something like that for granted. And
Well, like Dan said, the nurse was lightning speed. And as soon as he calls me and says, we have a candidate, I will clear my schedule to get them in. And it does happen very quickly that we lose people. I interviewed someone with Dan this summer. I said, let's just do it together and save an extra interview. So it's pretty important.
Is it okay to draft something in plain language, or should we ask Dean to do it?
We can just draft something and I'll just run it by him to make sure
Okay.
it's okay.
Guess I have to get my notebook back out. Okay. All right. That brings us to agenda item number 13, favorite one. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, before we roll call vote, I'll just note our next scheduled meeting is September 6th, same bat time, same bat channel. Roll call vote to adjourn at 8:20. Amy,
You're up, Amy.
Yeah.
Jean,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
and I'm yes. Thanks, everybody.